government of Venezuela inaugurated the situational room for monitoring and supervision of the production plan of the mixed oil companies. Healthcare workers in Argentina have criticized the state of the healthcare system in the face of growing demand caused by government policies that have led to increased poverty and a financial crisis. And the Palestinian resistance denied claims made by Western media outlets and U.S. government officials regarding an alleged agreement. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR Studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. The government of Venezuela inaugurated the situational room for monitoring and supervision of the production plan of the mixed oil companies. President Nicolás Maduro started the meeting by pointing out that the absolute independence production plan is aimed at the production of the whole country. He also emphasized that the sovereign production will be worked with own effort with an absolute independence. Among the authorities that participated in the video conference were the board of directors of the Venezuelan oil company PDVSA and representatives of 7 companies affected by the unilateral coercive measures, as well as the Minister of Hydrocarbons and Executive Vice President Delcy Rodriguez.
We are controlling and we are doing the supervision and we're controlling the whole activity.
On Thursday, Venezuela's Vice President and Minister of Hydrocarbons, Delcy Rodriguez, clarified that the license revoked by Washington's government on a U.S. company has not affected oil production. According to Rodriguez, the Bolivarian nation continues to produce more than 1 million barrels of crude oil per day. She pointed out that the country respects agreements signed with partners and assured that audience that the oil fields are operating and producing normally. In this way, she provided a detailed summary of the development of national production during her speech at the Fede Industria Expo event in Caracas, the capital of Venezuela.
The workers of PDVSA maintained their production plan despite the fact that both PDVSA and Partner B are victims of unilateral coercive measures. In the case of Venezuela, you know this because of the anti-blockade law and because of our constitution. We do not recognize any jurisdiction other than the jurisdiction of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela.
While in other cities in Latin America, the popular self-built neighborhoods are expelled and destroyed, in Venezuela they consolidate as spaces of resistance and organization that are now part of the urban tourist route. This is the case of La Lucha in the parish of Sucre. Our partner Paola Dragnik with the details.
In
the heart of the city of Caracas, on one side of Rómulo Gallegos Avenue, this arch begins La Lucha, a popular neighborhood, which far from being evicted by the government, today is part of the urban tourist route. Well, with the struggle of the people of the town, the few neighbors that were there, I understand, because when I was born it was already there, not like that, but it was already done. With self-construction? Yes, self-construction. Each one built his own. Some put their things of zinc, others of cardboard, others of wood, and so on.
In the
1950s, dozens of families settled here, like thousands of neighborhoods throughout Latin America. Among others, my father was one of those who arrived. Well, everyone built their own little house, you know, but by the end, look at what we have achieved. There are some beautiful houses here. And alternating with businesses, warehouses and popular enterprises that visitors can visit on their own or together with the street leaders who organize the neighbors. We are already having the title of the lands, thanks to our revolution, because it is really thanks to the revolution that we have been receiving all these things, all these beautiful benefits. But also, thanks to mutual aid and popular organization.
Ayudar al pueblo, pues, porque eso es lo que estamos. It helps the people. Well, that is why we were helping, because this is a sovereign fish. The kilo of goldfish is worth $4, and in those other places you can get it for $12, $13, and here it is for dollars. Well, the neighborhood is excellent, they buy, but it is on credit.
Bueno, porque compran, pero es fiado, ¿no?
No es turismo de pobreza.
Is not poverty tourism. Is knowing how the Venezuelan people are resisting.
Ha servido para unir, ¿sabe? A la
It has
comunidad.
served to unite the community. We are all happy.
Contentos, todos felices, todos unidos.
We are happy united because we know that what is coming is good for the improvement of the whole community and person.
Toda la comunidad, del personal, de cada quien.
Entre sus callecitas está Susana.
Among its small streets, there is Susana. At 106 years old, she is a living bastion of the recent history of Venezuela and a source of pride for her community. She was a worker, a parent, and worked in family homes.
Entre ellos cargo mi presidente Chávez.
Among them I carry my President Chavez, that every day in the world I tell him when I am killed or die and God calls me, that my President Chavez goes with me in my coffin. Because he was a man that gave me a lot of advice, we all went out together in a van, all together to drink, with the propaganda and do all that.
Todas las propagandas y todo eso.
Un sueño socialista por el que Susana
A
trabajó.
socialist dream for which Susana has worked since she was young, and that today, with more than a century of life, can finally live in her own struggle, and that of all her neighbors.
Jesús Romero y Paola Drachnik, TeleSUR, Venezuela.
Almost 415 people have died in El Salvador's prisons since President Nayib Bukele introduced the state of emergency. This was denounced at a press conference in San Salvador, the capital of El Salvador, on Thursday by several human rights organizations. Representatives of the Human Rights Commission and lawyers from the Tutela Legal Maria Julia Hernandez organization claimed that measures intended to combat violent gangs have evolved into tools of social control. They claim that President Bukele's government has suspended constitutional guarantees in order to commit serious human rights violations, resulting in the imprisonment of 85,000 people in less than 3 years. And now we have a short break coming up, but first remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates and more. We'll be right back, stay with us. Back from the south. Healthcare workers in Argentina have criticized the state of the healthcare system in the face of growing demand caused by government policies that have led to increased poverty and financial crisis. This Friday, the workers' union will hold a congress in Buenos Aires to evaluate the deficiencies in the country's health system and agree on a plan of action for the sector. The meeting's slogan is "Health workers are standing up," and representatives will use it to denounce budget cuts to public health and the lack of supplies. Consequently, hundreds of medical centers are on the verge of closure, and prevention programs for the country's most vulnerable populations are under threat of possible dismantling. In Argentina, inflation closed at 4.23% at the end of May. According to a survey by the Finance Research Center, several households have reported a clear increase in the prices of basic necessities under Javier Milei's administration. Those surveyed estimate that the prices of these items are rising by more than 4% each month. A study by other consulting firms indicates that the increase in meat and vegetables accounts for almost 50% of the inflation in food and beverages in the last week of May. Overall, basic domestic wholesale prices increased by 2.8% in the same month. Amidst the repression unleashed by the Panamanian executive in an attempt to contain the widespread protest across the country, the violent arrest of leaders continue. Indigenous leaders Lucrecia Caizamo and Enelda Salazar, who represent the Emberá and Wonan collective lands, were violently detained by the National Border Service. The agency has also issued arrest warrants for Elibardo Membache and Isaías Caizamo, who joined the protest initiated on April 23rd by trade unions, students and various civil society organizations. The protests were held in rejection of Law 462 and in defense of water and rivers, as well as in opposition to the surrender of national sovereignty.
I want to express my feelings. I am not a criminal. They only have me here for defending my country, my rights, as an indigenous woman. We are fighting for our children, for the future of tomorrow, because we do not agree with Law 462.
Cuban President Miguel Díaz-Canel confirmed that energy recovery on the island is his top priority. During his podcast from the presidency, the Cuban president emphasized the importance of operating the national electric power system, given that the economy has ground to a halt. He also explained that demand had grown considerably in May compared to March in both the mornings and afternoons. Díaz-Canel dismissed false reports about the electricity situation, referring to the deactivation of 2 thermoelectric power plants for 18 months. The United States Supreme Court authorized the Donald Trump administration to revoke the humanitarian parole program to over 500,000 migrants. The measure affects migrants from countries such as Cuba, Venezuela, Nicaragua, and Haiti who had obtained this special status to reside and work in the United States. The U.S. court ignored in its order the negative consequences that more than 500,000 people will have by abruptly ending the humanitarian program, affecting their lives and livelihoods. Concerning the court's order, President Donald Trump will seek to put an end to the massive arrival of immigrants who were able to enter the United States after applying from abroad. The United States has intensified its crackdown on migrants. The Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency carries out inhumane raids without respecting migrants' legal status, age or health conditions or court decisions. They are caught with violence in their workplaces, even though they have all the requirements demanded by the legal framework. Even in the courts where they are confident of their legal standing, they are even arrested there. Stephen Miller, the so-called border CSAR, and Kristi Noem, the Secretary of Homeland Security, have increased the deportation people per day. They assure that they will not only fortify the border, even though this means dismembering entire families and violating rights and guarantees. In the United States, the Department of Health and Human Services has found that former President Joe Biden's administration failed to investigate more than 7,300 allegations of child migrant trafficking. The figure was determined after agency officials submitted for analysis more than 65,000 reports on unaccompanied migrant minors that were left over from Biden's administration. Investigations began last February, and since then, 18,868 cases have been processed. However, in addition to the 7,346 reports of trafficking, 1,688 have yet to be examined regarding possible fraudulent sponsors in the reception of children, and another 46,311 with leads on beneficiaries' staff and the unaccompanied minors themselves. Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan, during a visit to Kyiv, proposed that Turkey host a landmark meeting between Russian President Vladimir Putin, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, and US President Donald Trump. Fidan suggested that such a summit under the direction of Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan could build on the recent rounds of Istanbul talks and help advance efforts to end the ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine. The proposal follows Fidan's recent diplomatic engagements in Moscow and Kyiv as Turkey continues its efforts to mediate a peaceful resolution to the conflict. So far, no date or confirmation from all parties has been announced.
toplantısının gerçekten sonraki belki aşamada bir
In
liderler
the next stage, the leaders' meeting would be very good to achieve a long-term ceasefire, I honestly think.
Uzun süreli bir ateşkesin hayata geçmesi için çok iyi olur diye değerlendiriyorum açıkçası. Sayın Erdoğan'ın
We believe that it is possible to crown the first and second Istanbul talks with a meeting between Mr. Trump, Mr. Putin, and Mr. Zelensky under the leadership of Mr. Erdogan.
Mümkün olabilir diye değerlendiriyoruz açıkçası.
Now we have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Welcome back to From the South. The Palestinian resistance has denied claims made by Western media outlets and U.S. government officials regarding an alleged agreement. According to them, the deal between Hamas and the White House envoy was altered to align with Zionists. Bassem Naim, a member of the Hamas Political Bureau, has confirmed that this new agreement represents the continuation of massacres and hunger. The proposal, which is still being analyzed by the group, represents a complete reversal of the discussions held with Stephen Witkoff at the beginning of the week. Naim asserts that the new document fails to address any of the fundamental demands of the Palestinian people. Nevertheless, he confirms that Hamas is reviewing this new plan with full national responsibility. Given the situation in the Gaza Strip, the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees, UNRWA, urges immediate and unimpeded humanitarian access to the enclave. It is stressed that the humanitarian needs in Gaza are enormous and growing, and called for urgent international action to open the border crossings and ensure a continuous and unimpeded flow of aid. In this way, the UNRWA revealed that its warehouse in Jordan contains enough aid to supply more than 200,000 people, all ready for immediate delivery and awaiting the lifting of the blockade by the Zionist forces. On Thursday, the Yemeni army announced that it had launched a hypersonic missile attack on Israeli targets in the occupied Palestinian territories. They confirmed that the attack was directed at Lod Airport, also known as Ben Gurion Airport in Tel Aviv. Following the attack, the airport suspended all flights. Yemeni forces confirmed that they would continue to fulfill their religious, moral and humanitarian duties towards the Palestinian people until the aggression ceased and the siege was lifted. This attack comes amid brutal Zionist aggressions against Palestinians in the Gaza Strip and follows an attack by genocidal forces on civilian property at the airport in Yemen. On Thursday, the government of Italy announced its willingness to take in the only surviving son of Dr. Alaa Najjar, a Palestinian pediatrician who lost 9 children to Zionist attacks. The Italian Ministry of Foreign Affairs issued a statement expressing its commitment to transfer the 11-year-old boy, who is in serious condition, in a hospital in Cantonese. The Italian authorities underlined their respect for the will of the child's mother and her relatives and assured that they will be closely monitoring the case, which has caused a profound impact around the world as it reflects the brutality of the war of extermination waged by Zionism against Palestinian women and children. Other news, Africa is facing a continental cholera emergency with more than 127,000 cases of the infectious intestinal disease. The Public Health Agency of the African Union urgently warned of the increase in cholera cases, stating that there are about 127,409 confirmed cases and at least 2,597 deaths. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention in Africa are working to implement a response plan to deal with the emergency, which is equivalent to a 2% mortality rate, higher than those estimated by the United Nations. So far, several African countries have reported cases of cholera, such as the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Angola, and Sudan. The United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs has warned that sexual abuse is increasing in Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo. A report issued by the organization revealed that more than 67,000 cases of sexual violence were reported between January and April 2025. The organization indicated that 58% of cases receive immediate medical attention with a critical 72-hour period. The agency noted that the majority of reported cases occurred in the eastern provinces, which were the most affected by the armed conflict between the military and the M23 rebels. The Chinese government condemns the U.S. administration's intention to increase arms sales to Taiwan. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Lin Yan urged the United States to respect and abide by the One China principle and stop generating tensions in the Taiwan Strait. Tensions between Beijing and Washington have increased following the elimination of visa requirements for Chinese students, as well as the latest tariff of control measures against China. Recently, Beijing also expressed concern over the United States' decision to provide to Taiwan with foreign financial aid, including military assistance. In China, representatives from more than 60 countries participated today in the signing ceremony of the agreement for the creation of the International Court of Mediation. The event, presided over by Chinese Foreign Ministry Wang Yi, was attended by nearly 20 international organizations, including the United Nations. According to the Foreign Ministry of the Asian giant, after joint efforts, the negotiations of the founding treaty were concluded and the nations agreed to locate the headquarters of the institution in Hong Kong. The new court is the first intergovernmental legal body dedicated exclusively to resolving international disputes through mediation, aiming to promote the principles of the United Nations Charter and strengthen multilateral mechanisms for the peaceful settlement of disputes. And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram and TikTok as well. For Telesur English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.